Sudan is not a small country. Before dividing in 2011, Sudan was the biggest country in all of Africa, as well as the biggest country in the Arab League. Being the biggest country, though, came at a cost, and that was having to share a border with people who were of a different race and religion as you. In 1983, the military regime based in Khartoum decided to impose Sharia law. The problem with imposing Sharia law, however, was that not everyone was exactly Muslim. The southern part of the country, which was mainly Christian, was kind of annoyed, and in rebellion to the action, created the Sudan People's Liberation Army, or the SPLA. At this point, however, we have to stop and realize that Sudan is not the only country like this, but that basically the entirety of Africa is also heavily polarized in the same way. The problem is that many African countries were designed to put together groups of people who are widely different than one another. In Sudan, you had a Muslim north and a Christian south, but throughout the continent, it gets even more complicated. On the Atlantic coast of Africa, Nigeria has over 240 separate ethnicities, each with their own unique language. The problem is that this makes decision-making very difficult, because all of these groups have to come together and make a decision that takes into account all of their various interests. As a result, these states are held back simply because there is always some internal strife between them. In 1967, for example, these divisions led to a civil war which killed tens of thousands of people in the country. If you want to make a failed state, this is a perfect place to start. To really exacerbate the effects of internal divisions, however, you can sprinkle on top of it some authoritarianism. From 1989 until 2019, most of the power in Sudan was centralized in the head of state, who so happened to be Omar al-Bashir. That 30-year time gap in American standards is like from George H.W. Bush.
Yes. Some of your favorite cartoon characters will help you understand how drugs and alcohol
until Donald Trump. Or if you're British, from Margaret Thatcher to Boris Johnson. And as president of Sudan, let's just say that al-Bashir was not exactly the nicest person around. The conflict had destroyed the country, because generally speaking, people who are fighting and dying in wars can't really run an economy that well. Moreover, when your country is known for perpetual warfare, people don't really feel safe doing business there either, and so they try to avoid it, which generally speaking makes you poor. This scenario is not too uncommon throughout the continent, and a lot of it could be stemmed back to internal disagreements between factions within a state. To the east of Sudan, for example, is Ethiopia, which, like many other African countries, has its own variety of ethnic groups. Some states in Africa, if placed in Europe, would be like if you put a country of French people, Germans, Dutch, and Belgians in a square and had them make decisions together.